The announcement came on Friday that NFL teams may reopen facilities beginning on May 19. And the key aspect, the key factor, they have to be permitted to do so under governing state and local regulations. This has created a situation where some teams will be able to open and some teams will not be able to open. It depends upon what state you're in. The Giants, for example, will not be able to open. Presumably the Jets won't be able to open either. But the Falcons are opening on Tuesday. The Cardinals will be opening. The Broncos are going to have some employees come back next week. It's a phase one plan. And the thing that the NFL has done to balance out the potential competitive disadvantage, Chris, no coaches can return. No coaches. Other employees only, no players, obviously. That's still to come as they work out a plan with the NFL Players Association. But coaches are barred, and that also applies to Bill O'Brien, even though he's also the general manager of the Houston Texans. The league clarified that point for me on Friday night. So some teams opening up because they can in the areas where it's permissible. Other teams having to wait. Chris, to me, this is the first break from the NFL's very careful approach to ensure that the same rules apply to all franchises, allowing some but not others to open. And it makes me wonder how much disparity the NFL will tolerate as the season approaches, as the offseason unfolds, and as we get closer and closer to these natural points where training camp, where you're going to have training camp, can't have it at home, got to go on the road. Can you have fans in the stands? Well, in Florida you can. In California you can't. How are they going to deal with that? There are going to be plenty of issues as the NFL gets closer and closer into the season. As the season unfolds, we'll find out how this works, but there will be disparities, and the first set of them is popping up as of tomorrow when teams can open facilities. But according to Judy Batista of NFL Media, it's about 22 of 32 that will be able to, which means 10 teams are going to have a different set of rules applied to them where they can't fire up the engines again while the other teams are getting that head start on getting back to normal.
Well, either way, I'm excited. It's good to have teams kind of get the business aspect of things going, get people back in some of these facilities. We talked about the memo last week. I mean, the guidelines as far as keeping the building clean, social distancing within the building, between employees, I thought it was all great guidelines. I'm not worried about a competitive balance yet, Mike. I mean, even if some of the coaches and some of these teams did get to go into a building and others didn't, I think plenty of teams right now are getting their work done with the Zoom meetings and everything else that way, to where coaches meetings is not an issue. To me, where the NFL has to be really careful here to, not let a competitive imbalance occur is anything on field wise, workout wise, anything like that. That would be totally unfair to certain organizations. Like you said, if you're a team like the New York Giants or Jets who are in New Jersey right now, where things not always not hitting on all cylinders quite yet here, being so close to New York City, to where, it wouldn't be fair to them if they can't go out and work out, and then yet, 28 teams in football are, having a little 7-on-7 or doing walkthroughs and things like that. That would be where I'd go, whoa, the NFL needs to step in and make sure this doesn't happen any longer. So, we're not there yet, but I'm happy to see that things are going in the right direction, or at least we're getting some people in these buildings.
Well, I still think, though, there is a necessary imbalance, though, when 10 buildings remain shut down and 22 are opening up. You are allowing – I mean, think about the stuff that the front office staff is doing as it relates to preparing for the 2021 draft. We've heard time and again. I mean, look, It's not like the general managers and the scouts just shut it down. They're making plans for next year. And now all of a sudden they're going to be in a position where they can begin, depending upon who shows up and how many people are allowed to be in a given facility. And they are keeping it to a limited number. But when you can reconvene at work, you can maybe be a little more productive, and maybe just that little boost. Yeah. Chris, that little boost of getting a change of scenery. The idea that we've been caught in this Groundhog Day reality for the last 2.5 months now. For 22 teams, some of these front office employees, some of these scouts are going to get a chance to have a change of venue, and that may energize them, whereas for the other 10 teams, they're still caught in that vortex of Sonny and Cher singing I Got You, Babe, at 6 a.m. as Bill Murray slams down on the alarm clock. I mean, so there is an advantage there, and it's striking to me because the NFL had been obsessed with no advantage, but there will be points where it's unavoidable. That's my point. As we go forward, how many other of these things will we see where there is going to be an unavoidable disparity? And Peter King made the point in Football Morning in America a couple of weeks ago. We're just going to have to deal with it, right? There will be unfairness. There will be things about this year that are different than other years, and you're just going to have to deal with it. And the teams that can deal with it are the teams that are going to thrive.
That's where I wanted to say, to your defense or rebuttal. I mean, you're right. I'm not trying to disagree with you that, it will bring energy to be in the building, be in a team meeting room with some employees, and you get to have a conversation about an important topic and bounce ideas off each other. Hey, yeah, I get that. I'm with you. But it's just right now, the world's not perfect. And for those other 10 teams who can't, get in there and have front office people in there to have some discussions right now and do all that, they'll live. They're professionals. They'll know how to figure it out. Yes, it's a little less than ideal, but I think that's what I was trying to get to too, basically. And I just didn't say it quite as bluntly as you or Peter King. But I think this is going to be a year where things are not going to be fair for all the teams across the board. You might have to be on the road for 5 straight weeks or not play a home game, or one team you go play and they got a crowd noise, and the next week you're at home and you have no crowd. I don't know. But I know within the seriousness of what we're going through right now, people aren't going to want to hear some of these players, coaches, NFL personnel complain about this crap when we got 20+ million people jobless right now and just, trying to live paycheck to paycheck. So that's where, I think, again, it's not earth breaking. To me, I would get more concerned when, okay, now coaches are in the building. All right, that's a little advantage for that football team. Oh, wait, this team's got players in the building. They're doing walkthroughs and having meetings with the players and really getting to talk things out in the position group meetings and all that. That's when I would go, ooh, that's not fair to those other 10 teams. They're not going to be able to catch up or lay down the groundwork for training camp as compared to the teams that are in there doing that.
And that's not going to happen. I think the next big disparity will be that there will be teams that can have a normal training camp in the location of their choice, and there are going to be teams who, due to the pandemic, have to pack up and go somewhere else when they would rather not do it, even though over the years plenty of teams have chosen to pack up and go somewhere else for training camp. The trend has been stay home for camp, and there are going to be teams that aren't going to be able to stay home for camp, and that's going to work a little bit of disparity into things. And then you touched on it, and I think that this is going to be a very real dynamic when we get to September and October. There will be teams that have fans in the stands. There will be teams that have full stadiums. There will be teams that have no fans present. Will you play games in states where you can't have fans and it will be an obvious disparity, or do you send those teams elsewhere? And even if you send them elsewhere, who the hell is going to show up and cheer for those teams? It's not like their fans are going to follow them to a different state and fill the stadium and create the crowd noise. Or do you allow actual artificial crowd noise in the stadium, not to just enhance the broadcast, but in the stadium? White noise, crowd noise like you have at practice to simulate what you're going to face on game day to balance out that disadvantage. Those are the kinds of things the NFL is going to have to be thinking about because, look, and I understand the bigger picture here, but you know as well as anyone, Chris, they love to complain. They complain about any actual or perceived disparity because, hey, if nothing else, we're making an excuse for the fact that we're going to lose the game. The best organizations say no complaints, no excuses, but there are plenty of organizations that do complain and do make excuses, and there will be plenty of fodder for that this season.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.